One mind people, one world, one fucking clown world. One clown world we're all living in. So I want to talk about the McCloskeys. For those that don't know, the McCloskeys were the St. Louis couple. Nobody's in yet. Maybe I'll wait, or maybe not. Take a sip. Wait a minute. So, McCloskeys, a couple from St. Louis, Patricia and Mark, who are white, according to AP. I'm not really sure why they had to point that out, AP News. But that's all people care about nowadays is race. And they have been charged with felony unlawful brandishing of a weapon. I believe that's what it is, Class E felony. And if convicted, they could go to prison for 4 years. Or they could just do community service. Photos emerged as memes on both sides of the gun debate. No shots were fired. Now, I must say that the wife should not have had her hand on the trigger of her handgun. Looks like a Beretta she had. So that should be noted. But, I mean, with everything that's going on, you know, and the looting and the criminality, what's up, Nicole? The criminality of a lot of these protesters and looters. I mean, I don't think you can blame somebody for trying to defend their property. Now, if this was like a black family and they didn't have a mansion, do you think this would be a story? I don't think so, personally. Protesters feared being injured due to Patricia McCloskeys' finger being on the trigger, coupled with her excited demeanor. And this is just another attempt by these people to erode our rights, the Second Amendment right to bear arms. And look at the prosecutor. I'm going to show you. Guess what she looks like. If they get convicted again, they like go up to prison for 4 years. Oh gosh. Look at her. Oh my goodness. So I've never seen this picture before, but I wonder what the prosecutor's opinion would be if the mob was in her front yard instead of theirs. They're coming for our guns. This is just clown world, dude. You know, these attacks on the right to bear arms, I don't agree with at all. Especially with the secret police, Gestapo, the KGB, that is literally going on in Portland right now. And that's not to defend what the protesters are doing for you light switch morons that may be listening. I mean, I think the right to bear arms is so pivotal. I mean, this country was literally founded behind the barrel of a gun. Okay, and to take that away from the people is just pure hypocrisy. And they're charged with felony unlawful use of a weapon or brandishing their weapon. No shots were fired. The mom threatened to burn down the house and kill the family, apparently. And I guess they did go on the private property for a second. And I mean, yeah, but these prosecutors, they'll do whatever for votes. If you had a mob at your doorstep and you had a weapon, wouldn't you at least try to message to that mob that you had a weapon and you were going to use it, or be ready to use it if they were there and threatening to burn down your property? On top of this, the circuit attorney's office has admitted that there is a backlog of cases, dozens of homicides that haven't been prosecuted. Yet she has accelerated this case forward. Why? Because it's a hot topic and everybody knows who the McCloskeys are, right? Certainly we've seen that picture of them. I mean, you think a dead person, a murder, would take precedence over people trying to defend their property. Now, that being said, the woman's needs to be trained with the wife. I mean, she's just like, don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're about to use the weapon. Very basic firearm training. You learn that when you're 12. What's up, Harley? You don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're about to shoot, right? That being said, they were being threatened. They were being threatened with arson, right? Which that could be charged as menacing, and that's a crime, and not people know that. There's a crime called menacing, and I mean, why is that not being? The governor of Missouri says he will pardon the McCloskeys if they're indicted and convicted. How about filing suit against the clueless prosecutor and getting her removed from office instead? Yeah, I'm buying weapons as soon as I am able to. For anybody curious about that. And I've actually been talking to one of my subscribers who's an avid gun collector. Very interesting stuff, actually. He's got, I think, a couple weapons from World War II, he said, and some other weapons. Even this rifle I've never heard of, which is pretty interesting. But it's interesting stuff because when I was young, it wasn't something that I was, when you're young, obviously, you're the politics, literally the exact politics of your parents, pretty much, or whoever is the most influential adult in your life. And still, I have, at least one parent who's very against, assault rifles. But I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand. I don't know. Just the fact that the threat of violence deters a lot of violence, right? And you see this in nature too, with big cats like snow leopards or jaguars. They avoid each other if possible because they know that deadly encounters with each other often are mutually destructive. They're mutually a negative, net negative for both of them, right? Even if one, you know, particularly the males, if they're fighting over females or territory, you know, it's a last resort, because even if one guy beats the other, one cat beats the other, whether it's a snow leopard, a jaguar, or otherwise, often they'll both be injured, right? And so they try to avoid that at all costs. So if animals have evolved to do this, you know, this is in our DNA too, our gene expression as well. And if there's no threat of retaliation of violence, you know, that's who predators look for, right? And not just predators, but anyone, whether it's the government or just a random, you know, just a random lone person with a gun or a weapon. So, Missouri's Attorney General has entered the case, saying enough is enough on grounds that their Second Amendment rights have been violated. Quite interesting indeed. Speaking of this, and I know I brought him up a lot recently, Robert Steele, ex-CIA, white guy, Christian, which shouldn't matter, but, you know, since we're just built two more ARs last month, 450 and a 762 by 39 AR-15. Nice, man. I don't know what a 450 is, but I know what the other one is. 762 by 39 cartridge on an AR-15. But if you can expand on what a 450 is there, Harley. I actually don't know what that is. But yeah, this guy, Robert David Steele, who is a white guy, Christian, ex-CIA, again, shouldn't matter where he's coming from in terms of identity, but obviously that's not true in 2020. He says, and he used to work for the CIA, okay? He says, we live in a police state. The IDF taught law enforcement to treat us all like cockroaches, okay? He says that. A guy who used to work for the CIA says this. He's white. Ex-government worker. Not on top of the ex-CIA worker. You know, it wasn't like he was a post office worker, okay? He says we live in a police state. Okay? What more evidence do you need? And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here. I don't know. I actually don't know who all was listening. But, you know, if a guy who used to work for the government, who fits every sort of stereotypical, you know, he checks all the boxes for a stereotypical Republican, right? White, well-to-do, government worker, Christian, you know, he's a WASP, right? White, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, male too, right? That's the currency of America, historically. And he says we live in a police state. You know, what more validation or confirmation do you need? Okay, don't just take it from the Latino brown guy. I don't even know what I am anymore, right? I said I was a brown guy in that other video where I said I was voting for Trump, but I don't even necessarily think of myself as that. You know, I'm a mixed, biracial person who has some color. He's a pretty boy. Just kidding, guys. I'm not vain. What I'm saying is I don't really necessarily identify as a brown person or Latino person or even Chicano, because I'm half white, right? Half of Nordic descent. And, you know, it just seems like no matter what the mix is, the darker like trumps the lighter in the mix, right? If you're half black, you're black. Even if you're a quarter black, you're a black. And this is how they classified slaves too, when they would, the slave masters would rape their slaves. You know, even if you were a quarter black, you were considered black. 450 Bushmaster caliber. It's basically a 45, but 3 times as long. Nice, man. I'm gonna have to look that up. Actually, never heard of it. Uh, 45 Bushmaster. But yeah, I do plan on getting a handgun and an AR. My cousin just got an AR, I think 2 months ago. Oh, okay, it's assault rifle, 450 big game. Oh wow, dude, that is a big round. That's what's up. I gotta give me one of those. The prosecutor should be charged with treason against the republic and for crimes against humanity. I don't know about the former, but excuse me, I don't know about the latter, but I would, you definitely have an argument there for the former with treason. Um, Yo, Addy, email coming to you in 10 minutes. Okay, I'll be on the lookout for that, Mr. Adler. Davidson Defense. I'll check that out, Harley. And if anybody wants to join my Discord, I've been talking about this with Va. We just been in actually a private message, just chatting about firearms. He's been teaching me some new, because I do have a basic uh, understanding of weapons. Like I've gone hunting before. I've killed 4 deer in my life, and I've gutted deer before, so I do have some experience with weapons and killing animals. Anyways, I remember, I still have dreams sometimes where I'm hunting, and not so much anymore. But when I was younger, I did, and the first couple of times I shot deer, I just couldn't stop shaking from the adrenaline. I would just my body would be shaking for like 15 minutes, just from the adrenaline of killing an animal. Even if it's just a deer, people, and it's not something you really can speak on until you've done it yourself, right? You might laugh, be like, oh, you get scared from killing deer. I didn't get scared, but taking a mammal's life is, it's and shooting a weapon to do it, I think is, and it's an excitatory experience, right? So I think a bit of adrenaline is inevitable, especially if it's your first time, for sure. Oh yeah, love me some venison for sure. And again, I don't claim to be the best hunter, but let me put my Discord in here if anybody wants to join it. Um, but I do have family members who are big time hunters, like my uncle. It's like his life. But if anybody wants to join the Discord, you can chat with me privately. It's pretty easier, and then we also share memes and stuff too. Not as much as it's not completely popping, but I'm trying to get more people on it. I've actually never had elk before. Yeah, and I do think there's you got to be thankful, and there's a spirituality to hunting too that I think is I think overlooked by people who've never done it before, like the Native Americans, right? When they would kill buffalo or bison, they would make use of every single aspect of the animal, right? They would use the bones for knives. They uh, sharpen the bones and use them as knives. They'd use the skull as a bowl. Just use every part of it, right? Yeah, man, I got some Viking blood in me, even though it doesn't look like it. The crime against important, she's not allowing humans to defend themselves. Yeah, okay, there you go. I could see that. You have an argument there for sure. Uh, yeah, Colorado's got lots of buffalo. I drove through the mountains of Colorado once, and you see hella buffalo, man. Just driving around. But yeah, if people want to join the Discord, we do talk some of this stuff there. And you just use it to share memes and news and stuff too. People got cool articles they want to share. But for those just joining, the McCloskeys here are looking at Class E felony charges. They have been charged with a felony. If they are convicted, they can face up to 4 years in prison. But I guess the governor has already said that he would pardon them. So we got this prosecutor, and I'll pull her up, who I guess is trying to pull votes in, trying to make a name for herself, which that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, right? Trying to get votes. First elk steak was in Utah for you. Yeah, I've never had elk. I would love to have elk. I do know one thing about elk that differs from deer, whitetail deer I'm speaking on, because I don't have experience hunting other, like mule deer or anything. But if you scare a whitetail deer, they'll just run to a different part of the woods. They'll go to the woods across the way, right? If you scare a pack of elk, they will run for miles. They'll run for like 4 or 5 miles. So because of that, you really got to pick your shots, and not to say you shouldn't pick your shots when you're hunting whitetail. You definitely should, but there's less margin for error when you're shooting whitetail, because you might kick them over to someone as you're hunting with. But elk, if you miss, and you don't get a shot at one in the herd, they're gonna run for 3-4 miles possibly, or more, which differs from elk, or excuse me, differs from whitetail. But yeah, felony unlawful use of a weapon, and this is something I feel strongly about, is our second our Second Amendment rights, especially with this Gestapo that we're seeing, the secret police, KGB, we're seeing in Portland. So am I, man. Is she a source prosecutor? I don't know. That's a good question. She don't know much about her, but it just speaks to the bigger issue at large. Instead of prosecuting the McCloskeys, they should be hired to keep Ghislaine Maxwell alive. Yeah, man, and this is something I actually didn't realize growing up in Wisconsin, is venison is a delicacy, especially in Europe. It's very expensive in Europe, because it's just so hard to get licensed for hunting, and there's less whitetail, less deer in general. And Wisconsin has the best whitetail hunting in the world, which I actually didn't even know until I grew up. I was like, dang. I did not know that. But yeah, McCloskeys here, man. It just speaks to this bigger issue of the government. Obviously not the entire government, but this factions within it trying to erode our Second Amendment rights via these shills, these shills like this prosecutor, right, who's just trying to get votes, and it seems to be working. It really does. It seems to be working. And like I said before, with Robert David Steele talking about the police state that we live in, ex-CIA, white guy, Christian, WASP male, whatever you want to look at it like that, you can. But he says we live in a police state. And, I mentioned this when I was talking to Big Sam last week, a few days ago, is policeman comes into the door right here, and I got something 3 o'clock, I can't shoot him. If I do shoot him, because I don't know who the fuck that is. They just bust in with their weapons. Like, a well-trained person's gonna, they're gonna get their draw out in a second and a half. That's a standard, draw time for professionals, 1.5 seconds. The elite draw is 1 second flat or less. But I shoot the first guy, the second, third, fourth police officers, they're just going to come in and execute me. And that's bullshit. That is bullshit, that I can't defend myself in my own house, in my own abode, from tyrannical Gestapo secret police. That's bullshit. And that needs to change. And the IDF taught our law enforcement to treat us like cockroaches, like crap, like shit. McKenna's for fresh vens. What do you mean by fresh vens there, Prophet? What the fuck? Yeah, and about Soros, and I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but he was saved by the communists, in the siege of Budapest, when the Nazis had control of Budapest, Hungary. The Soviets encircled the city, and I don't know if they completely circled it, but they did envelop it to a certain extent, and there was a siege that resulted in lots of people dying. So Soros was literally saved by communists when he was I think he was 12, 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere in there. Dude's old. He's so old. You're old enough to live through the siege of Budapest and remember it and still be alive. You are an old person. But I just wanted to speak on that. The Second Amendment, right? In every amendment, guys, it's not just the Second Amendment that's eroding. It's our Bill of Rights in general. It's scary. It really is, and the way they're politicizing it is unfortunate too. In that, it seems that only lefties are concerned about the Gestapo. Righties are not, or at least they're pretending not to be. I'm not really sure. And very few people in the middle, whether it's libertarians, independents, Greens, whoever, they're the ones who can see both sides and be like, yo, this is bad. Like, this Gestapo is not good. At the same time, we need our Second Amendment. We need our weapons. We got to have our weapons. Search Soros Esperanto on YouTube, and you'll see him speaking the globalist language. I will check that out. I know Esperanto is it's like the made-up language they trying to make for the one world language. A high Esperantist. I'll check that out too. But yeah, and once I do get my weapons too, my AR, and I might even film my shooting my cousin's AR too, because I'll probably shoot it sometime this year. If anybody wants to see that. I will. I'll shoot. I'll have my cousin. He'll teach me how to shoot his AR, because I've never shot an AR before. He says the kick is really low, the recoil. But what do you mean by pattern? There, Fortune Quest. Oh, Patreon. Yeah, I do. Let me put that in the description, or in the chat. Hold on. But yeah, if people want to see that, actually I've been wanting to do that, is like make some just shooting videos. And I obviously, it'd be like just share my learning experience, because I've never shot an AR before. I have shot, like, I killed my deer with a 30-30, 30-30 Marlin, and then I think it was actually with the Marlin every time, 30-06. And then my older brother, he killed like a huge doe. I think that was his first deer. It was like a 200-pound doe with a 308. Sorry, I don't get it. Just because you're a big man with big ass, right? You'll kill the wild beast. What are you asking there, Kay? Eat a fucking chicken. And half the time, people don't even really like pheasant. I always hear how it's gamey or an acquired taste. So why do you kill it then? Well, I'm just speaking for Wisconsin, Kay. There is an excess of deer almost every year in Wisconsin, and it used to be a lot worse. It's a problem in the Midwest, but especially Wisconsin, because they cause a lot of car accidents. So, and on top of that, there aren't any wolves anymore in Wisconsin. I mean, maybe you might see one up north, like near Eagle River, or like way up north near Canada border, but or like Minnesota border. I think Minnesota still has a few packs of wolves up there, but there are coyotes. But the coyotes usually they only take out like injured deer or fawns, and they're more of varmint than anything. They're kind of vermin because they do take out farmers' chickens and stuff too. So because there's no wolves and there's not very many coyotes that take out full-grown deer per se, they only take out fawns, really, which is unfortunate, because that's the future of the deer. And they do cause quite a few car accidents every year. it's just inevitable. Like I've been in a car accident with a deer. My mom hit a deer when I was in high school, I think, or middle school. Um, no, it was middle school. Um, but so because of that, and I think people outside the Midwest don't really understand that. So because there's not very many predators, there's a few cougars, but not really that many. You might get like a couple cougar sightings on cams a year, uh, and it's usually just a lone transient male, that's traveling from the Mountain West. So because of that, there's a lot of deer in Wisconsin, and they cause a lot of car accidents, which obviously do cause deaths sometimes. So because of that, the deer need to be controlled. The population does. So that's where hunting comes in. And again, they do, they give out permits for all that, so to make sure that the correct number of deer are killed. Right. So they don't like the meat, and we aren't with them, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on California, but I mean, if you don't like it, don't eat it. I love it. I think it's really tasty. Um, Car hitting deer low must have been PTSD. What does that mean? Uh, yeah, so for people who maybe don't understand the hunting aspect, like Californians or maybe people from the East Coast. Yeah, there's lots of deer in Wisconsin. I could probably give you the numbers actually. Deer population. Now, I think Texas has a pretty decent amount, but um, and it depends on the winters too. Some winters are really harsh, and they do cause the deer population to drop. In which case, less tags are given out. But the issue at large here is the ability to defend ourselves from the government, right? And there's this argument that I heard a certain member in my family say when I was younger, and that was look at the uh, David Koresh situation, right? David Koresh. You can't take on the government. That's what they say. It's not about the realistic ability of taking down the government. It's the principle of defending yourself against tyranny and give me liberty or give me death type of situation, right? Because there's about 320 million now, I guess, people in the United States. If everyone is armed, they can't kill all of us, right? I mean, they maybe could, but they're going to go through a lot of men trying to kill us, a lot of tyrannical, uh, stormtroopers to try to take us all out. And even then, like, it's because of the internet and how fast word travels now. It's even more difficult to take advantage of the citizens and do kind of some kind of night of the long knives or internment camp situation, Holocaust situation, whether it's divided or rounding people up based on their ethnicity or otherwise. It could be their ideology too. So it's very real possibility. And just look at the United Kingdom. They don't have guns by and large, and they are experiencing a lot more tyrannical policies from their government than we are. And I think a big reason for that is because they don't have guns. They can't defend themselves against the monarchy like we can. Um, yeah, that's another reason too that the herds get called is because they do get into farmers' corn. They eat a lot of the farmers' corn, especially. Yeah, man, and that's the thing too, is like you see a lot of them on the highway. Like there's a lot of deer in Wisconsin. I think people don't understand that. But oh, I see what you're saying. You had a traumatic experience as a kid seeing deer get run over. Yeah, if you live in Wisconsin, you're gonna see a deer. You're gonna either experience a deer car accident or see one at some point in your life. Um, internet kill switch. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is being ready for that, and I really need to think about that too. Um, yeah, guns being behind every blade of grass. Yeah, I saw that. I think it was mistakenly attributed to Yamamoto, but you might be right. I think it was the emperor, not Yamamoto, who was the admiral during that time. And he got executed for war crimes, by the way. Yamamoto did. But um, so yeah, I don't know, I felt very much compelled to make this um, this statement just on our Second Amendment rights that are being eroded, our First Amendment rights that are being eroded. This is all connected, right? And people don't necessarily see that way. These light switch simple assignments, whoever they are, whether it's Democrats who think that all guns are bad, or whatever. The our police force has been completely militarized, and you don't think we should have semi-automatic assault rifles? I mean, they have M249 saws and completely automatic weapons. Not to mention artillery, drones, and like we shouldn't have semi-automatic rifles. Like that's just stupid. But all right. Yeah, I hope so, man. They're probably not interested in talking to me. They got their hands full with their legal battle right now. But if people want to go and subscribe and just make an account on brand YouTube, I am a Rhodium account on there. I used to be on the front page actually, but this new dude got in before me, even though I have way more views than him. He has more subscribers than me, so I guess that's why he's on the front page now. And it's just annoying, dude. Like, why does Brian Rose, Dave Chappelle, Patrick Bet David, why do these people need freaking brand YouTubes? They're just monopolizing. And eventually all the other big boys are going to be on there too. Like Joe Rogan's on there, Rashid Buttar. Like, why do you have like 500,000, followers or subscribers on YouTube? Why the hell do you need a brand YouTube? Like, do you really care that much about free speech? I don't think you do. I mean, you're making a lot of money on YouTube. But here, I'll do my, I'll put in the Rhodium account too link. So yeah, this goes to popular, it says popular channels on the URL, but you can see me on there. I'm like what's that, the 17th? I used to be, no, sorry, the 13th. I used to be top 12 with Anna Brees, and Ryan's up there, Sean. Sean has the most subscribers by far. He's got about 10K, which is cool. And then I think looks like Ryan's next. So this kind of this UK kind of collective and US UK collective we got going on is kind of making up most of the Rhodium accounts, and certainly the most active of them. Fuck Joe Rogan, man. Why do you need a brand YouTube? And we'll leave it on that note. Fuck Joe Rogan. And just be aware of these rights that are getting eroded, people. Stay frosty. All the best. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, I think you can pick how much you can put, even if it's just $1. You can do that. I got, I think, 1 or 2 new patrons today, so I really appreciate that. It's really psychologically satisfying when you get you see that kind of immediate reward for your work. So stay frosty, guys. Cheers. All the best. Until next time.